Members of the company, this is your places call. Places, please. Places for the top of the podcast. Places, please.
Get ready for a behind-the-scenes look at the glitz and not-so-glam of Broadway, education, and everyday life with Uncommon Sense. Join hosts Christopher Smith and Charna Lopez as they bring you the best stories and shenanigans that seemingly prove how elusive common sense can really be. So take a little time for yourself to hang out with the dynamic duo Charnopher, and no leaving early, because you might just miss that 11 o'clock number.
Stand by music. Music, go.
Uncommon sense. The 11 o'clock number.
And we are Charnopher. Hey guys, welcome to Uncommon Sense, our pilot episode. Here we go.
Woo, woo, woo.
Get ready for some fun.
We're excited.
I know, we're finally doing this. Charna and I have been talking about this for years. They were like, we should do a podcast.
And now finally it's here. And no lie, this morning was a little rough for us. So I'm ready to jump in and turn this day around with our very first podcast.
Turn it on its head.
Turn this day around.
Da 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 dun dun.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Well, let's start with maybe introductions, because although we know a lot about one another, our viewers and listeners do not know, or maybe know a little bit about us. But do you want to start, Christopher?
Sure. I mean, I'm Christopher, so I'm half of this dynamic duo known as, wait for it, Charnopher, which we'll get to. But I have nothing to say about me, you guys. I have nothing to say about me. Okay,
wait, that was amazing. I have nothing.
Right. So I have 2 kids. I have a wife. Their names are, my wife is Joy, and my 2 kiddos are Grayson, who's 4.5, living his best life always, and little Amelia, who's a little over 2. And that's like my home life. And then in the rest of my spare time, I'm just a musician plus 2,500 other things.
I mean, I'm gonna just jump in and say I've met a lot of people, artistic people in my life, and Christopher definitely wears the most hats, hands down, in terms of artistic abilities and ventures. Christopher can do anything, like truly, from anything artistic. I mean, he can't march. He can't march.
That is its own story. We'll talk about that some other time, you guys. We will literally talk about that.
I feel like I should have introduced you, because you're going to like downplay all your abilities. Christopher has an amazing background in music. He is a super accomplished and very talented pianist, music arranger, collaborator, teacher extraordinaire, musical director, and my IT guy.
Hashtag all the things, literally.
Which I gave him a nickname, Christ of all music, because his email says that, but it actually fits him because he is Christ of all the music, all the musical things.
All musical things.
Mr. Christopher Smith.
Yeah, so my email is Christoph Music, but when I met Charna, which, man, that's its own story.
Yeah, we can do that. I'll do my quick intro.
Okay.
Well, where did you go to school, Christopher? Like background-wise, so our viewers, listeners, people who don't know us, like so they know our kind of professional background.
Right. So I did my undergrad work at Point Loma Nazarene down in San Diego, and my brother and I actually do duo piano work, and we were even in a national competition, and we got runner-up, and I was so mad because if we would have got first place, we would have gone to Carnegie Hall with our concert. So I was like
Dang.
super bummed.
Oh man.
But that's all right. That's all right. Someday. Maybe. And so yeah, I did my undergrad at Point Loma, and then I did go to a JC. I crammed 2 years of college into 3. Really good there. And then when I transferred to Point Loma, wait for this, you guys. Guess how long? When you transfer, you're supposed to be there for another like 2 years, right? Because you did your whole. What do they call it? What's the first 2 years of stuff called?
Your undergrad. You're like basic. Your GEDs.
Yeah, GEs. There it is. The GEs. So did that. And then transferred, and it's like, you didn't have private piano lesson credits. I've only been taking lessons since I was 5, but it's cool. It's cool. So I was there for 4 years, but it was good I was there for 4 years because that's how I met Joy. So.
And that's a good lesson for some of our student listeners or people who are, seniors trying to like devise their plan for life. Sometimes your plan is not what you think it's going to be, and that's okay.
It's not the plan. It was just your plan. There's a bigger plan. And many times we have those plans and they go, that's a good choice. And then God's like, thanks, no, bye.
Sit on back. And then where'd you do your graduate work?
Oh, and I did my graduate work at UC Irvine, which is how I ended up here in the OC. Oh, and then I was like, I like Orange County. I'll just stay. It's cool. But I started getting some work in theater and stuff like that, which yeah. And then we'll talk about how we met, which is how I got to OSHA, as they call it, the OSHA.
So what's really interesting, my background, I grew up in San Diego. So it's so funny that like you but like San Diego to OC. I was the same. I grew up in San Diego theater. My mom ran a dance performing arts studio my whole life. So I was all around it. And then went to college in Orange County, came up to Chapman University. I did my BFA in film and television, which a lot of people
so fancy,
right?
Charna.
It sounds fun. It was a really great time, and I wanted to be a news reporter, and I wanted to go do TV news reporting, and that was my jam. And kind of through the whole college experience, still I got a scholarship through the choir at Chapman, so I was still really involved in music.
Got a scholarship to college.
And then kind of like by way of meeting my now husband, decided I didn't want to leave and go pursue TV. I wanted to stay here, and fell into teaching, literally fell into teaching, started teaching at a studio, started teaching at OSHA, and then went back to school to get my master's in education. And now direct, choreograph. I run, a conservatory, administrative wise, just I have
things.
We have a nonprofit youth theater company, lots that we do. But our paths, Christopher and I have known each other several years now, and we do so much together.
I think it's like 7 years. I think
I know, right?
I met you like
That's
7
crazy.
years ago. I know.
And my family, real quick, my husband's Jerry, and I feel like we'll talk about our spouses a lot on here. They're especially Jerry's super involved in like the theater stuff we do, so like we get to have funny JLo stories. But I have 4 kids. I have 2 stepdaughters, one who is almost 21, studying abroad in Italy, one who is 17, Alyssa and Emma, and then my son just turned 11. Sebastian.
I cannot believe he just turned 11.
I know.
Not okay.
I know. And he's kind of like a little man now. It's that like fun age where he's starting to really grow up. He's like introduced me to the world of sports. I didn't grow up with sports, and my son is all sports all day. And then my daughter is mini me, Miss Ruby May is 7, and she already thinks
theater.
She's already on Broadway in the kitchen. She's great. So we have between the two of us some great family insight, family stories, but a lot in terms of theater and the industry. We got a lot of people that we still connect with and work with and are very, very good friends with who teach in the industry, work in the industry. And I think that's kind of what drew us together too, just our personalities and the way we think about this industry and kind of teaching and
just
theater.
How we function in general and how other people don't.
And it's so funny because everyone can have that idea of like, oh, I meet somebody and I work really well with them.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is like on another level.
Totally.
Like we can have like, even this morning when we started to set this up and both of us were like, okay, this day is going to be a day. But both of us just like, I don't know, we like understand each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Totally.
great.
And that's
why I
became
love
the
working with
Charnopher.
you. The Charnopher.
But same. Like there's a lot of people, like, not to toot my own horn, but I work really well with a lot of people. And then there's some people I don't. We'll leave you off that list. I won't tell you who you are. But then there's like just a tiny handful of people that like you really, really click and work well with.
Yeah.
And that is definitely a Charna Christopher moment.
And we got to teach together, which is really fun. We had years of teaching in the classroom together. And I think, honestly, we're the greatest team in the classroom. I know the students.
Best team teachers, truly. To this day, people talk about it.
I know. Well, that's how we got our coined name.
That's
and
right.
then we've done a lot of shows.
We didn't create it, y'all. We didn't create it.
A student thought of it, and then they made us a banner, and we had a banner in our classroom for years.
Sometime.
I know. I'll have to show it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think our experience in the classroom, and then we've done several musicals together, and a musical,
like
producing it, directing it, musically directing it. It's such a labor of love, and it's so personal, and we have so many fun stories, lessons, and
oh my gosh.
scenarios.
So many things
that we'll share over time.
We will. We're gonna even have a segment that we're gonna talk about in a few minutes too.
Oh yeah.
But I just wanted to share my story of meeting Charna. I'm pretty sure that my other video stopped recording, so that's great.
Oh.
So we'll just be using these.
That's fine.
So I, very long story short, did a little show called Rocky Horror down at a theater in Laguna Beach many years ago, and one of our lead cast members was named Jeff Paul, and he was great, and he liked working with me. Like I said, I work well with people, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to come music direct for Orange for OSHA?" I'm like, I don't know what that is. I was like, but maybe. He's like, well, it's a high school, and I'm like, I'm gonna stop you there. No, thank you. Because I had just finished doing a couple of high school projects, and I was like, never again. Which I'll share some of those stories sometime too. Goodness sakes. But he's like, well, it's Orange County School of the Arts, and they're like, it's for the conservatory program, and blah blah blah. And I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. I'll come do one show. So I did. I came and did the Fantastics, and it was fantastic.
That was your first show?
That was my first show.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then the next semester, like after that was done, he was like, hey, do you want to come just be an accompanist for some voice classes? And I was like, sure, why not? I accompany real good. So I said yes. And so then fast forward, day one, I was like, so who am I playing? Like, what class am I playing for? And he's like, it's 10th grade voice with Charna Lopez. And I was like, cool. So I'll tell you who I was not expecting when I turned around was this girl, this lady right here. And if you're just listening and you're not watching us on YouTube, then you're not going to realize that Charna Lopez is not anything but a white lady with blonde hair. And I did a full-on double take. And there I was.
People get married, Christopher. People get married.
I know.
And I married a handsome Mexican with Lopez.
You did. J-Lo. Good old J-Lo. But it was just the funniest thing because it was not what I expected. But that's what that teaches you, right? Don't have expectations. Don't make assumptions.
And I felt like
I did.
Second one, I was like, oh, hey, like, I don't know. And then we like walked to class together. And I remember hearing you play the piano for the first time. And I was like, I'm going to need a minute. Because I could ask him to play anything in any key. I didn't have to handhold. I was like, oh, this is like someone who's actually going to work with me. And it was like such a nice day, a great breath of fresh air in the classroom to be like, oh my gosh, someone like that can collaborate, and also has a hilarious sense of humor and likes to tell stories.
I'm the most boring person ever. I don't know what you're talking about.
We had so much fun, and we did that. We taught that class, and then we did another middle school. It's called Broadway Bound, which a lot of our stories come from, because those middle schoolers, man, they will give you a run for your money. And
That's for sure.
We did that for several years, and I've got to say, those performances, I'm super proud of them. Like, to be in 7th or 8th grade and do some of those things that we did with those kids, some of that material, they did a great job.
I specifically remember the Catch Me If You Can number.
Yeah, it was great. Then we did Footloose together, which we'll bring up Footloose a lot. That's probably one of my favorite initial memories with you. That show was so fun. Great creative team. We had Jeff Paul as director, who Christopher mentioned earlier. But that show was really fun. We had a great time. And then it just like snowballed. From there, it was like we were doing everything together.
Everything.
It was awesome.
Because it was great.
I know.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
All right, should we bring up our recurring segment? Should we move into that?
So we are planning, y'all, to have a few recurring segments, and we'll kind of just go through them as they come up in our lives as we're talking through things. But this first one kind of was an inspiration for needing to have a podcast. Like, we're like, we just want to start a podcast called this. And then honestly, we were discussing with people, and they're like, I don't know if that's the best title for a podcast. They'll be like, what's that? But
we landed on recurring segment. We landed on
segment.
It's not the title of our podcast. We have much more to offer than just this one thing, but also it's sort of like our favorite thing to sit and talk about at length.
And there's so many, and you don't even have to talk about it at length. It can just be a moment. It's like, oh, that's totally that moment. So Charna, I want you to do the honors of saying what this recurring segment is.
So our very first recurring segment, you heard it here. It's called
Heard it here first.
What's My Eyeshadow?
Dun 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 dun.
You may think it's about makeup, but in actual fact, it can be about anything.
Right.
It's sort of it is a phrase that we've coined over the last several years to kind of explain a certain situation. So I'm going to actually use the what's my eyeshadow situation to explain it, if you don't mind. And then we can talk about some other instances.
Please.
So the way I explain it to people, and we explain it to people, and we now have, sidebar, several people who are aware of this terminology. And so you can even just be in a situation and you can look at the person and be like, what's my eyeshadow? Because it fits. So picture yourself at a very first rehearsal with maybe kids from the ages of, 10 to 18. Well, you can even go older than that, because most of these kids that do it are even older. 12, 14, I don't know. We have 80 kids that have auditioned for us. I don't know your name, sir. You are tree number 5. I'll learn your name, but it's it's rehearsal number 1. And
J1 people.
We're all sitting down. Maybe we're trying to learn music. Maybe I'm trying to organize a script passing out, something like that. And sweet little tree number 5 will raise their hands. And you're like, yes, hi. Excuse me. What's my eyeshadow going to be for this show? What kind of eyeshadow should I wear? And no joke, and what you want to say as a grown human is like, I don't even know your name. We are not to the eyeshadow portion of the evening yet, my friends. They have just no wherewithal of that they're not reading the room. It's just out of left field and that's
really the thing. It's the out of left field that it's like, I'm sorry, what? Also, we're dealing with that 6 weeks from now when we're doing makeup for the show.
And it can be anything. So it's totally transformed into this out of left field kind of commentary that these kids make, and sometimes adults, but mostly students. And now we just have
because their brain's not fully developed,
and they're in their own world. They're in their own world sometimes.
Let's be honest. There's some adults that I think also aren't fully developed, so it's all good.
I've had adults definitely in some staff meetings or other meetings where you're like, oh, that definitely is a what's my eyeshadow moment. But that's where it stems from. And now we do use it very often, just with comments or situations that kids bring up. And we have so many of them literally, that's why we're going to do call the podcast, What's My
Mhm.
Eyeshadow? But it's going to be a recurring segment.
Yeah.
And although we have a lot of them, if you are listening and you're going to come back and listen to our next one and our next one and our next one
Yeah.
and our next one,
Uh-huh.
and you're going to subscribe, as you hear more of our kind of stories, we want you guys to also then like
Totally.
tell us your What's My Eyeshadow stories and we can share them. I think they're so funny. And it can be something as simple as that. Day
Yeah.
1 of rehearsal and tree number 5 says, what's my eyeshadow? And you're just like, friend,
Mm.
what's your name? Because
Right.
I don't even
Let's start there.
know.
That's like
Your name.
you go on a first date and it's like, how many kids are we gonna have, and what's our address gonna be for our house? Hello, friend. I just met you.
And I think with kids, it's just so funny because they truly, like, they genuinely are concerned about if they get to wear eyelashes or if they wear character shoes. Or do I get a microphone? That's another favorite one, you know? Like, we're learning the alto line of song number 1. We are not concerned about microphones, my friend.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, anybody who has been in youth theater, but even education in general, I know they're going to have stories. Like,
Yeah.
you're going to have them. We have so many.
Totally.
And we got to bring on some friends to tell
We
those
will.
stories
We
because
will.
some of those stories are so funny, Christopher. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And maybe we just have one whole episode that's What's My Eyeshadow.
I love
And
it.
that's the whole episode.
Okay, do we want to
so
move
check
into
us out.
like
We'll put the link in our description. But maybe reach out to us on Instagram on Charnopher Official. Why do I
Oh.
hit things? It's the worst.
It's not. You're the best.
So yeah, so speaking of first dates, it's Valentine's Day this week, everybody. It is
Yay!
Valentine's Day this week.
I love
In fact-
Valentine's Day.
Yeah. So I just think like let's talk a tiny bit about Love Day and anniversaries and things like that. What do you think? You want to
love it.
share anything?
Yeah. It's funny because I think there are a lot of people who like either love or hate Valentine's Day.
That's so true.
I
Also
do love
known
it.
as Singles Awareness Day for some people,
But I love it because I have kids. So of course I love celebrating Valentine's Day with my husband, but for us, I prefer when Jerry gets me just flowers just because on a random Tuesday in April or whatever. But I think it's nice to, tell the people you love them. I love Valentine's Day with my kids. I love giving them little treats and getting, writing cards for them and just telling them they're loved. And the one thing that I don't love with kids
Mhm.
at Valentine's Day is the school Valentines. And your
Oh.
kids aren't
We're
quite
not
old
there.
enough.
And we're not going to be there probably because we're going to homeschool at least.
Well, then
for
maybe
a
you'll
good
like
chunk.
do Valentines for your neighbors or something.
Yeah. But either way, the
think-
social Valentines.
Well, yeah, because look, I'm all about it. Let's get some little Valentines for the 20 kids in your class.
Yeah, like
But-
those little Valentine cards they used to have, and put
They're
like a little
cute.
piece of chocolate on it and move on with your day.
However,
Please tell me more. Please actually don't tell me more, but tell me more.
Your child, maybe they're in kindergarten and 5 years old, or maybe they're in 4th grade, they have to sign their name on every single.
Oh.
So it's like this moment of like, no, mama, no. Like, I
Mm-mm.
will sign my name on 6 and then I got to take a break because that's a lot for a kindergartner.
Yes.
And it's a lot. And then you end up, the kids get all the
No.
Valentines the day of, and they bring home every Valentine, and you can tell which kid has like painstakingly written their name or which kid's mom
like, yep.
just gave up.
Girl,
Just-
that would be me. I'd be like, absolutely not.
you're like,
I've-
oh, Bobby's mom couldn't handle it. She just wrote
Mm-mm.
Bobby's name on every Valentine.
That's right. And
Oh, man.
you know what? I have so many reasons why I think that's a better idea anyway. Because I think kindergarten's too young to be learning how to write anyway. But-
Right? Oh man, it's cute. It's cute, and I think the kids get into it. I mean, Sebastian's out of it now, 5th grade. They're kind of over it, but it's at like K through 3. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, we do, but we already have started in our house. Maybe I'll put some pictures on our Instagram. Actually, we have these. What are they called? Mailboxes. I'm like, what's the word? Mailboxes, and we have like 4 different sizes. And throughout like the Valentine season, if you will, like after we put away Christmas, we put up Valentine's Day stuff. We just put like little things in there, whether it's little notes or little, and then you put the flag up and you see if you have something in your Valentine's mailbox.
So, do you have a mailbox for each one of you?
Mm-hmm. It's
Wait,
sitting on
that's
our
super cute.
yeah, it's sitting on our living room. And Grayson is like into it. Like the other night, because he's super into drawing and crafts right now, like he's obsessed. Like he'll just do it all day. And he's getting pretty good. So he made something for Amelia and put it in her mailbox and then gave it to her. And she's so cute because she's like, oh, and
She
like,
got a prize. Oh, that's
mhm.
cute. I
Yeah,
like
so
that.
do that. And then so just throughout the season, we'll just do little things like that.
That's sweet.
So
I think that's true too. Like Ruby loves to draw, and I mean, I could wallpaper my house with all the drawings and things she likes to do, but it's cute, like giving it to someone else, a little mailbox.
mm-hmm.
I like
Yeah,
that.
super fun. Yeah, if you guys want to share any fun Valentine stories, just throw them on our Instagram too.
Valentines.
We'd love to hear them.
I love it.
What about your since we're on the love topic, do you have like a fun dating story? I'm sure you have a bunch, but like a favorite dating story or engagement story or something?
I mean, I have an engagement story, but for the sake of time, I actually have a good Valentine story.
Oh, great.
That I think would be funny. So Jerry and we had been together for a little while, but we weren't married yet. And it was our first trip to New York.
Okay.
So we're going to go to New York.
Dun, 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 dun.
Love it. I love that song. Start spreading the news. Jerry had never been to New York. I had been a couple times. My sister lived out there for a while, but he'd never been. And we're like, you know what? Let's go celebrate Valentine's Day and let's like do it right. So we got a really nice hotel and we want to like go to one of like a really nice restaurant for dinner. So we asked at the time, my boss, I was working as an administrative assistant and he was like a world traveler, older gentleman. So he recommends the restaurant, the 21 Club. And we kind of look it up and it kind of looks interesting. Food looks okay, you know, whatever. We're young, we're in our 20s. This is February in New York, my friends.
So it's like nice and warm, right?
We land, it's the worst snowstorm they had in 20 years. Like,
oh, well,
blizzard snowstorm. Well, I only have a white satin spaghetti strap mini dress with high heels. And you best believe
we need a moment. I'm sorry. We all need a moment to process that. And we may need to unpack that later.
I mean, I gotta find a picture because that dress was awesome. And in my 20s, I felt so good. I was like, I can't not wear this dress. It's like our fancy night out. All other stuff I had like jeans and sweats, you know, for like walking around. So I gotta wear it. I'm freezing my ass off. And we get to the restaurant and Jerry literally has to like help me out of the cab through the snow because I'm in heels. And we get up to the restaurant and we have a reservation and we walk in. And it was a moment from a sitcom. Like we walk in and I look at Jerry. Nobody in the restaurant is under the age of 50. Not a single person is under the age of 50.
Okay.
Everyone is wearing like slacks and turtlenecks or sweaters. And I literally, it was like a record scratch moment where everyone was like, what? Like, we were so out of place. So, you know me, I'm like, whatever. We sit down and Jerry and I could just not stop laughing the entire time. The meal was so expensive and it wasn't even that great. And we're like, we should have just gone to like some sushi restaurant or we should have just like had euros on the street because that would have been more of my jam. But we were trying to like, you know, do the Valentine's thing. And I think it was a really good lesson in like, just be you know, like we realized after that, we're like, this is just not our jam. So it just, everyone stared at us. We had a meal. I ate something that I don't even know what it was. It was like, it was not good. It was so expensive.
Yeah. Well, sounds like it.
It was quite funny. So we tell that story often of Charna in, you know, 8-degree weather in her mini dress, trying to be fashionable.
That's fantastic.
What about you? Do you have a funny Valentine's dating engagement story?
Yeah, I totally have a funny story. It's not Valentine's or dating. I do remember my 6-month anniversary of dating more than anything else. It's not a funny story, but it's a fun story. But I just pulled up to Joy's dorm and I like put out all these rose petals to the door of the dorm and then we went for a dinner cruise in San Diego and all that stuff. And I'm pretty sure
For 6 months
yeah,
anniversary?
I'm a silly
Okay,
human.
romantic. I love that.
Totally am. But and I don't know, it was just like by 6 months, and I'm pretty sure looking back, I'm like, choices. But I'm pretty sure that was the night that I gave her a promise ring.
Okay.
Like to be like that. I don't know when we're getting engaged, but this is like gonna happen.
At 6 months.
Yeah, I like
Wow.
part of me knew, and then years later we got engaged. Do you know how long we dated for?
No.
We dated for I think like 7 years before we got engaged.
Wow. Well, how old were you guys when you met?
Well, Joy was barely 18.
Yeah.
And I was like, since I took 7 years to get through undergrad, I was like 20. I'm like 5 years older than her, so like 20.
You're 5 years older than Joy? I did not know that.
I am.
Well, you look good, Christopher.
Thank you. Well, I am 30-10. So
30-10. Both of us turned 30-10
we did
this year, and I just love that saying.
Yes.
I love it, love it, love it. 30-10.
I
love that you're a romantic. That's so
Yeah.
sweet. I feel like Jerry and I both are. I do feel like as you get older, though, like we just went on a date last weekend, and it was like all we could do to just get out of the house. I curled my hair, I put makeup on, and then we got to the restaurant, and I was just like, let's just chat about like kids' schedules. How are we going to get through next?
Yeah.
Like,
Truly. No, but truly.
I mean, the meal was great, and
But
we did have
truly,
some alone time, but it's so
still,
different.
It is. I know. I don't curl my hair these days either to go out, but
I mean, Jerry, we gotta have Jerry make an appearance. He did not curl his
100%.
hair.
Well,
Jerry doesn't have any hair for my listeners who don't know Jerry.
yeah,
But when I met Jerry, he had
that's
head
gonna
of
need
hair.
that's gonna need to be a picture that's shared at some point, y'all.
Yeah, we got to do like a throwback episode where we go through
Totally.
like old pictures of us. That would be fun.
Oh, that would be fun. We're doing that.
That's
We'll
a
put
sweet
whole
story,
slideshow
Christopher,
together.
though. I love that.
So that's
And
6
that was
months.
when you knew that you wanted to marry Joy.
Yeah. And then, as I say, I dated 3 different versions of Joy before I got asked her to marry me. She'll admit, she'll say. But speaking of engagement stories, that's one I love too, because we had had this plan to go to Vegas with my parents for a while. And after 7 years, Joy's getting antsy, and she literally on the way to Vegas was like, we need to have a talk and figure this out. Like, it's like a moment of either like get going or get out.
Right.
Right.
Oh, shoot.
That's basically where we were going down that path. And I was dying inside of laughter because I knew exactly what was going to happen this week.
Right.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, that reminds me of something else, which I'll get to. I was like, you know what, Joy, I totally get it. And I very much understand, but we're about to go on vacation with my family for a week. So maybe let's just table the conversation, have a great week.
When we get back.
And I promise, if you still want to talk about it on the way home, I will totally do that. And so she agreed. So we did. And I had the plan to get to propose at the top of the stratosphere, like outside. And we were like happy hour fiends. We're like, where's the best happy hours? And
so this is another reason Christopher and I get along. Just a sidebar.
We love a happy hour.
We love a good happy hour.
We do. For many reasons. There's great bites involved, great drinks involved, and good deals. And that's where I'm
happy. And you're just happy in the happy hour.
Correct. So we were like plotting out, and you guys, Joy is a planner. A planner. Capital plan, capital ner.
Like if
triple
I
capital
think
planner.
I'm a planner,
yeah.
Joy is like echelons above me. Like I think I'm a planner, and Jerry will say I plan too much, and I need and nope. I'm like, just look at Joy for a moment, and then come back and tell me that I'm a planner.
Yeah, and she's a planner. And she, kids have loosened that, but she's still like she's a planner at heart.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with that. No. Totally. So she kept trying to like plan our happy hours, and she wanted it go to this place at the top of the stratosphere. And neither one of us had been up there before. So I also wanted it to be like our first time going up together and everything like that. And I was proposing on Thursday night, and this was like Sunday. Because I had already made dinner reservations at the rotating restaurant with my family for afterwards. I was planning on going up for the happy hour at the bar above it. So it was a whole week. She was getting irritated at different points. She was like, why can't we just go there this day and blah, blah, blah. And like, let's just go on Thursday. It's going to be better. And she just wouldn't let it go. And then my ring box I got, which I'll have to share. I'll share it on Instagram. It is a carriage. So it's like a pretty like Cinderella carriage with the ring box.
What?
And it's all like Swarovski crystal. It's sitting in my dining room right now. I thought I'd show this to you. Well, I'll show it to you. But that ain't gonna fit in no pocket, y'all. So I was like, okay, well, how do I get this up there? So then I'm like, well, I can put it in a bag like a little gift. But since we were going with my family up for happy hour, I was like, well, that's gonna look weird. And let me just have a gift for Joy randomly out of nowhere. So I sent my dad, I was like, okay, you need to go to the dollar store and you need to find something that is approximately this weight. And you need to get me 2 gift bags because then we had one for my mom. So we had like gifts for the ladies for the evening.
Got it. That's smart though. That's a smart move.
Yeah. And Joy was half oblivious, so I don't think it would have mattered. But like, I was like, I am covering all my basics, all of them. So well, later I found out after, because he didn't tell me what he got, he found a tape measure. So she got a tape measure as a gift in the bag. It was super funny.
Did she keep it? That's a sentimental tape measure right
Yeah.
there. That's cute.
So that did. So I was able to take them up without, any suspicion. And then I was determined to propose outside, out on the observation deck, determined. I was making it happen. And all night she's like, I just want to sit here. I'm having a good time. It's cold outside. I don't want to go outside. I'm like, come on, let's just go outside. So I finally convinced her, somewhat begrudgingly. So we went out there and we were just observing the view, and she was turned away from me. And so I got down on one knee and got all prepared. And I was like, hey, Joy. And she turns around. And I always say, she made sounds only dogs could hear. She it was like squeals, high pitched things that like there was not an answer for a good minute and a half.
And were there like a lot of people out there? Was everyone clapping? And
there was there was some people, not too many. So anyway, and then we went down and had dinner with my family. So that was fun.
That's sweet.
So there's my not funny story, but it's fun. But it was just like all these little roadblocks. And then we went on a fun gondola ride in no, not at the Venetian, out at Lake Las Vegas.
Okay.
They had this whole thing, and I have a picture of it, and they had like rose petals and I think a champagne there because I did this whole like package thing for celebrating and stuff like that. So yes, I'm definitely a romantic at heart.
I love
figure
it.
that one out.
I'll tell you, Jerry's romantic too. Our proposal story, he like totally did up our house at the time, like rose petals, candles, everything. But I had just come home from teaching dance, and I had no idea. I was sweaty. I was like all gross, and then the door was locked. The front door was locked, and I was so ticked. I was like, "Why did you lock the door? Like I got bags, I got tap shoes." I was like so irritated. Yes. And then I like finally get my keys out and I open it, and I'm like, oh no. like I was texting him like, why'd you lock that door? And then I was like, oh, we're getting married. Okay, I'm sorry. Like, I had to like backtrack. But I will say something that I've enjoyed a lot as I've gotten older. It's just the ability to actually like not indulge, but maybe just splurge a little bit more. Like I love now when we do anniversaries, like if we go to Napa or if we go to Los Olivos, even if it's just like a staycation in Laguna, I love that. Like, I don't know, you're like a grown up, you're 30-10, right? So I feel like we really love to like have a great meal and whatever. We're big winos, so get that really good bottle of wine, and I super look forward to that. And I feel like that can be for any celebration, like I do personally love Valentine's Day, but I feel like that can be for
Yeah.
for anything.
Yeah.
Food and
Well,
drink,
that's
man.
so
Happy hour.
fun. Oh, yeah.
I love it.
So fun. Oh my gosh, you guys. I think that kind of brings us to
see,
the end of our first episode.
And this we talked about,
We
friends, was
did.
going to be tricky for us because we could probably be just 6 hours of chatting, but we're going to keep it short so you guys can
Short-ish. It's like
stay
short
interested.
adjacent.
Low-key short. It's low-key short. As the cool kids say, is low-key short.
Not cool. I'm clearly not cool because I don't say that.
That's actually another episode we should do is teen slang.
Oh.
Because,
Yeah.
I don't
love
do
that.
it well. All right.
Man.
Is that it for our first episode?
I think so. I think that's a wrap.
Yay,
Charna Lopez. Charnopher.
Common
All right,
sense.
check us out. Subscribe to our podcast. Check us out on the web at uncommonpod.com, and we'll have links to all of our stuff, our YouTube channel and our Instagram and everything we talked about. It'll also likely be in the description on the podcast, so you can find it there too.
Yay.
Yay. All right, y'all. Well, we'll catch you next time.
Bye, friends.
Have a good Valentine's Day.
This concludes another episode of Uncommon Sense. If you're ready for more of this fresh, hilarious, and unique perspective on the world of entertainment, education, and life, be sure to subscribe right now to catch every episode. If you gasped, laughed out loud, or even snorted, share the show with your friends and aspiring entertainers because, let's be real, sharing is caring. For more Charnopher, tune in to their witty insights by checking out the website uncommonpod.com or connecting on social media. Tune in next week and get the real insider scoop on another episode of Uncommon Sense.